I was talking about football to 100 people a week on a podcast with a mate, and then it just sort of quite quickly became something quite different. I think I early on was like, this isn't going anywhere. It's like, well, maybe it will.
This is Alex Moneypenny, a creator who's built an audience of over 100,000 subscribers by making long-form videos about all things Arsenal.
What would you say are the things that you're optimizing for?
But I think there is something in like feeling present and feeling pulled in a certain direction and just following that path and seeing where it goes.
He began as an aspiring actor in Bournemouth with dreams of the West End, but by trusting his gut and leaning into content, he made a full-time career of it, featuring on some of sport's biggest platforms and being around some of the most influential names in football media.
There is something about acting that it's just go for it. Just try it. Get up there, stand up, fail, be rubbish, go again, because you'll only learn by doing that. You have to come to the end of a really difficult period and look back and go, oh yeah, that person or that thing, that was the thing I sort of clung on to. And yeah, mine was singing and dancing.
We sat down to explore his journey, his worldview, and what it took to turn his creativity into a career.
You can only connect with the person and what you feel from them. And I think those who can bring that will have success.
Welcome to another episode of Delusion by Design. This one is a special episode by all accounts because it's the first time I'm having someone on that I didn't know before, I didn't have any connection to, and someone whose content I actually watch. So yeah, with this episode, the goal is give you a different side, a different angle of a creator who's made quite a splash over the last few years in the scene. So with that, Alex, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure. This is very cool. This is very cool. I think this is like the coolest pod setup I've ever been in. I'm getting jealous. I'm getting sort of like, oh, I wanna take it. It's cool.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, and I mean, to kick us off, for those that don't know you, who's Alex and what does he do?
Probably best known for doing the Different Knock on YouTube, which is basically Arsenal-based content. But I work for the Metro, work for the BBC, work for Sky, work for various sort of companies, sort of doing football content. We'll get into it, but it's been a bit of a sort of mad journey to get here. This is certainly not something I really ever intended to get into. I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. But yeah, that's probably where people know me from.
Amazing, man. Yeah, and, I want to go through your story and the different chapters and even, how we actually came to meet. But, just a couple of things to kick us off for some context. Because from the outside looking in, I'm assuming you're someone who's on the path they're on, not because the objective was to maximize the amount of money that you wanted to get in life. So with that being the case, what would you say are the things that you're optimizing for?
Good question. What am I optimizing for? I think that's always an ongoing process. And I think someone I reference all the time. Do you know who Alain de Botton is?
I don't know if I do.
If you get the chance to chat to him, he's like a philosopher, kind of just deep thinker. He runs something called the School of Life on YouTube, which you probably you might have seen. You've certainly seen the videos because they're everywhere. He's just amazing, and he's completely changed my way of thinking. It's more the sort of the art, the articulation. When someone's able to put something across, and you're like, oh, I've always had that thought, but I've never been able to say those words in that order to get it to that point. And one of the many ideas that he has is, and has sort of inspired thinking in me, is around like, what is really motivating us. And I think a lot of people would say it's happiness, but I'm not quite sure anymore. And I think people say, you probably ask the average person, what do you want? I want to be happy. I'm not sure. Certainly I really have a sense of like, oh, that's I know what that is, and I can always pinpoint it. I think it's like fulfillment and being interested and like having interesting conversations. I think for me, I like my favorite thing is like just connecting with people, understanding more about stuff, hearing interesting ideas, and having interesting conversations. And I think that just naturally you're pulled towards the thing. There's like a magnet in other people and in situations where you go, this room feels like it's for me, so I'm going to just do that. And trusting your gut is something I'm always like, all my friends like, shut up. But I'm always about like, it's, just trusting the gut. So I don't know if it's like money or happiness or anything, but I think there is something in like feeling present and feeling pulled in a certain direction and just following that path and seeing where it goes.
I like that a lot. And the point on the gut, I'll definitely want to dig into a little more as well. But I guess even related to that, is there a specific metric or thing you do or opportunity you get that brings you the most kind of joy and excitement?
It's really cool when you can give people, like, give back, I think, which sounds like a slightly virtue signaling thing to say, but it really just is. Like, it's really nice when, like, I have a friend who helped me massively when I was first starting out in the content space, and now he's starting his own content, and I'm like all over it. I'm like, let me help, and it just feels like really, really nice. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I don't know. What was the question?
If there's anything in particular, like in terms of a metric you look for,
Yeah,
whether that's
yeah.
related to YouTube or life.
I think there's something in how present I feel in situations, and how like present a situation makes me feel. If I'm sat in a situation going, I've got all these extra thoughts and whatever. Like, I love that feeling. You know the thing in a movie where you realize you're watching a movie after like 2 hours, and you're like, oh my God, that's such a good film, because you've just been fully in this world for whether a TV show, whatever. You're just there. If I could bottle that feeling, if you can, you'd be a billionaire, because it's the thing I think people are really craving when they're looking for, I booked this holiday or I booked this experience, whatever. You ultimately want that sense of presence and that sense of just being fully in the moment and connected, and not worried and not thinking about the future, whatever, just allowing that kind of like flow state. I think that's why people love sport, because you have no choice. You have to be present. You have to be exactly where you are. Otherwise you miss the ball, you get kicked, whatever it is. Yeah, I think I feel like I'm coming across like I'm trying to be a yogi, but it's that. I guess that is really what I feel.
For sure, man. I think emotion, in the end of the day, again, something I want to dig into a bit further, but even related to, be it content, be it sport, be it acting, which we'll go into as well. Like, that is, I guess, like where the Venn diagram for all these things meet, and being able to create emotion. And yeah, if not for that, like, life is a series of emotions you feel, in different times and spaces shared with different people, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But to start transitioning more into yourself and your story, I'd love to know, when you look back at your childhood and kind of assess the steps that got you to where you are today, what would you say are like the key 1 to 3 things that are important to know about your story growing up that explain how you've gotten to where you are?
So we'll dive in. My dad passed away in 2017, and he had Alzheimer's disease. So I think, brief sort of summary for if anyone's unfamiliar, it's a sort of degradation, basically, over a period of time. And he first got it when I was 12. So I kind of had that whole experience up until I was 19 when he passed away. That was, that has been and continues to be the thing that keeps coming up and popping up and being the thing that's, I think I've dealt with it, and then something else happens and you realize, oh my God, I've not even scratched the surface. And, grieving is such a bizarre process. It's so strange. And anyone, I'm sure, I don't know if you've lost anyone close to you, but it's just such a strange thing, because it's just so non-linear. So that was like probably the big event of the childhood. I think it probably forced me to grow up quite quickly. I was also the youngest of 3. Yeah, and the youngest of 2, my 2 sisters and my mum. And I think there was a space for a kind of a masculine energy in the house, and I think I kind of stepped into that too early, and that caused all sorts of issues, because I was a immature 13, 14-year-old trying to be an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old and trying to, help my mum and maybe not allowing myself to make the mistakes that a teenager makes. And kind of then in my 20s, I've ended up making some of those mistakes and feeling like an idiot because I should have made them when I was, 18 or whatever. And yeah, that's probably the big thing. And then I'm always curious about like that sort of, and I use the word masculine, not man, because I personally have the opinion that we all have like masculine and feminine energy. Everyone has masculine and feminine energy, and I think that the masculine aspect of me got sort of out of whack, and so I think I've got a bit too competitive, and I got a little bit sort of. I often think like if that happened to me now, with like the way algorithms and stuff work, like I don't know what I'd think. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't like my role model basically was obviously my dad, and he couldn't be that. And like, you know, there's some mad people out there on the internet, man. And I don't know what I'd think. And I was lucky enough to have theatre, which we'll get into, which was kind of like my escape and my thing that kept me on a path. And my mum's amazing, and like my older sisters are amazing as well. But I think specifically men need role models, and I managed to find them. But I think I wonder now whether that would be a different process, and I'd find them in different ways. But yeah, I suppose that was really the biggest event that kind of shaped me. And there's so many, we could go anywhere with that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, you know, at the end of the day, adversity shapes you, right? And it's not really about what happens to you, but how you deal with it. And you mentioned theater there, and even, you know, one of the thoughts I had while you were first explaining the story to me was like, did you use theater as a form of escapism from reality?
100%. But even something you said there, like, you know, the thing that you know, how you deal with adversity. I think sometimes we're guilty of rationalizing or like reverse engineering as if it was like a conscious choice, as if like I was like 12 going like, I'm going to use theater as an escape, or like you have no idea, obviously, in the moment. You're just acting and sort of thinking later. And yeah, it was very much an escape, and it was very much a place where I was good at something, and I could, like, you know, make my parents proud, and it was kind of a distraction in some ways, and it gave me a focus every week as well. I had a difficult time at school because I was like quite small and quite sensitive, as I am now. But yeah, like I had a difficult time at school. It was very much like the focus for me at the weekends or the evening. You know, okay, it's cool because I'm going off to do drama classes. And yeah, it did give me that. And I wasn't aware of that at the time at all. And I probably wasn't even aware of its function in my life until like I graduated drama school, like really, or even began to think about that. But I guess that's true. You know, you'll probably look around. I think everyone looks around at their life and realizes that you have these distractions, and you have to come to the end of a really difficult period and look back and go, oh yeah, that person or that often substance or that thing was a real, like, that was the thing I sort of clung on to. And yeah, mine was singing and dancing.
The crutch.
The crutch, yeah.
Being able to get yourself through it. And I think there are healthier and unhealthier ones, you know, even from the list that you mentioned. But, you know, to dig into acting and theater in general, because, I mean, one of the biggest reasons I'm so interested in wanting to dig into it with you is because it's something that is so, I don't know if alien is the right word, but so foreign to me, right? Yeah. So even when you went into acting and acting school, you know, because you mentioned started around 12, then went to do it for uni.
Yes, yeah.
So what was the goal there? Like, why did you make that decision?
Well, yeah, at the time, back to almost your first question, I think I thought I knew what I wanted, and was very much like, I want to be on the West End, and and again, I think there's something in like the loss of the role model with my dad, and then there was all these boys who were kind of going off to drama school, who were older than me, and way cooler than me, and, you know, had beards, and, you know, they were a lot, well, they're certainly at the time a lot taller than me. I grew up very late, physically. Yeah, that was very much the sort of the pathway. When I was like 12, I was like, there's like a drama school that I wanted to go to, which I was lucky enough to end up going to that drama school, and it was like that was the ticket out. You know what I mean? That was the way to get to, you know, to go to London and be on the West End, and everything would be kind of sorted. Because I guess I'd seen these shows, and I kind of associated the happy feeling of watching the show with like, oh, well, then these people must be happy all the time and have a great life, and that's the way to kind of escape this. Again, I'm saying it now as if I was thinking that at the time. I wasn't. I was just acting. I was, as in literally and physically. Literally and metaphorically. Yeah, that was very much like the pathway I think I saw out. And it also, like, it gives you, in the same way that I guess, you know, jiu-jitsu or sport, as we mentioned earlier, like, gives you a discipline. and gives you like a set of rules and like almost like a pair of glasses, like a way of seeing the world, and a community, and a sense of self-worth. Gives you even a language to speak. There's so many. I'm so glad I had it. It kind of fell apart when I understood its function and realized that wasn't working for me anymore. But yeah, I'm so grateful for it in so many ways. It doesn't feel like wasted time. You know what I mean? It was just the path I was on at that point.
For sure, and I think there's so many transferable skills that come from that,
Yeah.
and we'll speak about those as well. But you mentioned just now the feelings it brings up and the emotions, and I told you I wanted to dig into this, but I guess the question is, from what you remember thinking about what the end goal was back then of being on the Westway and being able to be a part of these productions, compared to what you're doing now, do you feel like the emotions and feelings you tie to both could be similar?
Definitely. I think there's certainly I'm on a blooming podcast in a studio. There's a desire to be seen, right? And Alain de Botton, the guy I mentioned, he says a marker of good parenting is that your child has no desire to be famous. And he's been on podcasts and said it to people who like he was on this podcast with Jake Humphrey, and Jake Humphrey was like, well, my daughter wants to be famous, and he's like, yeah. It's just but I kind of buy it. I think there's something why we lived for however many thousands of years in just these tribes. Why do you want to be known by the world? And it's not that I particularly want to be known by the world, but that desire to be seen, there's a transferable thing there. Which is probably, maybe I need to go to therapy about. But there's that. I think also there's the community aspect of it, and kind of also a lot of it, and a lot of the way I approach football is through writing, and I love writing. I absolutely love writing. I think it's the ability to formulate stuff and then rewrite, and obviously within football there's a time scale, but with the theatre stuff you have infinite possibilities to just go again and make it better and tighter and cleaner and sharper. And I love the craft of that. And I think in football there's parallels as well, the craft of both of theatre and football. I mean, there's kind of the obvious blunt object parallels of the audience is the stadium, and the manager is the director, and you could do that. But there is something in the craft, watching a game model come together with Mikel Arteta, obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, with the craft and the process of something, and watching something develop over a long period of time, that level of satisfaction, you have that in a rehearsal space where you get there on day one and everyone's got pieces of paper, and slowly things come to life, and that's an amazing thing. The process that we did where we met, so many things that I loved about the show I hadn't written, just someone had come in, said something in a certain way, or even read a line and I went, oh yeah, that's what the line means. I didn't write that. So having that ultimate collaboration of whether it's football manager and players and the support staff around them and creating something, same with theatre, there is something so amazing about being in that process. Yeah, I think there's so many parallels.
For sure, man. And again, we'll dig into more of both sides, but on theatre specifically, you mentioned the musical that I met you at. In general, what was that? What was the goal with it? What are you working on in theatre these days?
So went to London, trained as an actor, did a few jobs, then COVID happened, and I had a bit of a sort of I'm not sure I want to do this. I already had a bit of a sense of that it had been my escape a lot, and I needed a new relationship with it. And I enjoyed it, and I was good at it, and I was getting auditions and stuff, but I was doing it going, something's not right, and back to the kind of intuition and the gut sense. I was just this isn't quite right, even if I couldn't quite articulate it. And I realized that it's sometimes I think it's about distilling down. You might be in sometimes people, I don't know what I want to do. And it's okay, imagine a house, and you go, what do you like about the house? Oh, I think I like the kitchen. Okay, well, what do you like about the kitchen? It's not quite the cooking. I think I like the design. Okay, what is it? The design? Yeah, it's the design, but it's this part of design. You sort of distill down what you want to do. And obviously when you're 8 years old, you just like go in a drama class. You don't know what it is. And I think the thing that I have now distilled is the making of the theatre, like the rehearsal, the writing, the craft. Again, similar to football. That's what gets me really passionate and I love. So it took a little bit of a time to work out, but then I went, right, I think I want to write. And we wrote, do you know the film Zoolander?
Yes.
So we wrote almost like an experiment. We wrote like a musical adaptation of that. Me and my friend Adam, who I wrote with, he's a very, very talented musician. And we sort of like did that, and we went to like Salisbury for like a weekend away and wrote all these songs, and we had such a great time. And then we started writing this show, which is called The Shocking Truth About Flat Earth. It's about a woman who believes the Earth is flat. I don't believe the Earth is flat. Don't know what camera we're on, but I don't. It's basically, it's kind of about grief. Well, it is about grief. The underlying message is about grief. It's very silly. It's very funny. It's farcical. It's a woman who has sort of fallen into the online flat Earth community. She plans to go to Vegas with her friend to see Adele, ends up at a flat Earth convention. She's mistaken for a speaker at the flat Earth convention. She's egged on. She goes to prove that the Earth is flat. Silly. But the point is, it's kind of the real drivers, what's going on, what's really pulling us towards certain things and what's emotionally going on. And we can rationalize, oh no, I'm doing this for this reason, but actually it's all your emotions, your unconscious driving it. So that's kind of the idea of it. I've gone off on so many tangents, I'm not even sure what the question was.
What's the goal there?
The goal is, thank you, Antonio. The goal, I'd love to just take it as far as it can go. I don't really know what I'm doing with it. And I sort of love that. I'm sort of like, let's see. Like we're having literally chats as we record today with some producers. We had a chat with a couple of venues and people seem invested and like they want to put some money in, which is amazing. And yeah, we'll just see where it goes. Like the next stage logistically would be another sort of fully, so we did like a workshop version. You saw like actors in blacks, but with a bit of costume, bit of props and stuff. And the next stage would be like a small theatre, probably a slightly bigger one than one you were at, maybe for like a week, and you sort of test it out and sort of grow it like that. And yeah, I love that process. Obviously, the dream would be is on Broadway and touring everywhere, but who knows?
Is that still an aspiration you hold, though?
Yeah, not to do it, not to be in it, not to be the person doing the tour, but to have written something that is out on tour, bringing people joy every night. I'm like, oh god, that'd be amazing. That'd be so cool.
And I think it's so interesting, man, because even just hearing you speak about the craft and the process, I think it explains a lot of the content you actually make. Yeah. And again, we'll go on to the content side, but like the angles you take and the analysis you do, I think is very linked to the way that you like to think. That comes out pretty clearly on the theater side.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't have. I think I just sort of try and try and try. I'm not sure how actually skilled I am, but I think maybe if I have one skill, it is like the lateral thinking. Like I'm quite good at linking ideas, and I don't quite know where that comes from, but sort of I feel echoes of certain. I've got a video coming out this week about how Leonardo DiCaprio and Arsenal are like the sort of inevitability and the Oscar thing, and like that they feel quite linked to me. I love process. I love craft. I love making. Whether it's any good is not that I don't care, but the bit I enjoy way more is not that bit, and I want to talk about how we made it and like doing it. You know what I mean? Like that's always been the thing, and I've never. I think it's interesting when people position themselves. Some people kind of want to always be on the outside and watching. Some people always want to be the leader. Some people always want to be the supporter. And fair play. I've always, in everything, even as a kid, I've always wanted to be the person doing the thing, making the Lego set rather than watching it or knocking it over. You know, you're always one archetype somewhere, and I've always been the one like, right, how do we? That's
Hands
what I
on
love.
deck.
It's presence in the end.
For sure. And you know, I told you I was particularly interested in theater as well because while I was there watching the musical, I got a flashback to back when I was working the first ever job I worked, which was with a friend of mine. I was in sales, doing sales for him. And there was one point after, and I'm someone who has read a bunch, I'll have watched a bunch of YouTube videos before actually doing something. And then I started in sales, started taking the calls, was getting better. And I asked him one day, and I was like, what can I do to actually improve? And he said to me, you should go take acting classes. And at the time, I was like, I don't really know about that. I don't think I will. And I never ended up doing it. But I'd be curious to know from you, as someone who's been through that, what do you think acting classes could have done for someone like myself who was just starting out in sales, or maybe someone, again, doing something completely different? What kind of benefit can knowing how to act or developing that skill set bring to someone in life outside of that?
Was he recommending it for like from a communications perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something in that. I think it depends what acting classes you go to. I think the best acting classes probably, and what that probably would have helped, it flips the attention. One of my best acting teachers I ever had, who also was a bit of a nightmare, but it's funny how these people, you end up picking this pearl of wisdom off someone who's a bit of a mess. And you said this one thing, and I think it's so true. If in acting, I think it's tempting to sort of just think about yourself and think about what's coming out of my mouth and what I'm saying and what I'm doing. But actually, if you can train yourself, and it is a training thing, it does take a while I'm speaking, but I'm speaking for you. I'm speaking for an audience. I'm speaking. So if I'm understood, I can stop speaking, or if I need to adjust my thinking, I can go on to, and it takes all the anxiety, it takes all of the self-consciousness out of it. It just, and you flip your brain into, I'm just present in the conversation with you and hearing how my words are affecting you and trying to read your language and going, okay, how am I being understood here? I think that part of it would probably, I imagine, would help in sales. I don't know sales, but my gut instinct would be, if you make it less about, like, when I'm being sold to and I get like a sleazy salesman vibe, I'm like, I'll turn off. But that's because they're about themselves. It's about how good I look and aggrandizing my product or whatever. But actually, if it's about, let me help you and go on to you. And I think the best acting classes might have been able to do that. And also just the repetition in a basic sense of like speaking clearly. And yes, all those things I think are accurate, and maybe I take them for granted a little bit. But I do think that flip mentally of, like, there's a lot of stuff. There's a guy called Stanislavski who's a big acting practitioner, and it depends where you want to go, but you could talk about objectives or imagination and stuff. But the idea would be, there's something in acting called actions, where you have a line. Let's say your line is, how was your morning? And you pick an action, so to cajole or to inspire or to, like, an active word that you can use to say the line in a certain way. And again, you're doing it to someone. The action, like, it's like I'm saying that line, but I'm saying it in a sense to praise you, but it's all about you. And in the end, that takes that self-consciousness, and everyone's watching me, and God, I'm feeling uncomfortable. And I also think, final thing on this, I also think what is a great actor, or what is a great performance, or what is someone you go, like, when someone comes on stage and you immediately feel comfortable. Is it like a comedian or a singer or whatever that you love?
Particular example?
Yeah, like someone.
Oh, you put me on the spot here, bro. Comedian. I like that American dude, Tim Dillon.
Tim Dillon?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I've only seen him a couple of times. I thought you were going to say the...
Chats so much shit. I love that.
Yeah. But like there's Tim Dillon,
Kevin
Louis
Hart,
C.K., Kevin Hart, whatever. They give you permission to laugh because they're so comfortable. And they're just so like, oh, like they just come on stage and you're like, okay, I'm cool, I'm sorted. Because they're not thinking about themselves. They're not thinking, is everyone looking at me? They've just got so comfortable and they're just talking to you. I'm going to tell you some stories and I'm comfortable, so therefore I'm inviting you to be comfortable. I know what I'm doing, so I'm inviting you to just. And there is something in acting about like the repetition, but also the flip, I guess. And I think you see it everywhere. It's presence again. Sorry.
And I think the flip you described is very valuable, because I was thinking, at least at the time, more in terms of like, okay, tonality, maybe body language, maybe even being able to understand cues in terms of what you're saying, in terms of what the other person is feeling and how you can dictate the direction or the pace of the conversation and how you're taking things. But, you know, to then apply it to an example where you do have experience and taking what you learn in acting into content, how do you think acting served you throughout your journey with content so far?
Well, I found it interesting earlier when you said, like, I'll do the reading and I'll like prep. I'm the opposite. I'll just jump straight in. So I think there's something in that, which is just, I don't know, probably arrogance or something. But there's a level of just like, I just want to get going. I'm just going to try it. And I think there is something in that acting gave me. Yeah, I think the articulation, probably kind of the gut sense of how to construct narrative, because you just pick it up. I have this thing about like, I think people know when they're being lied to. They might not be able to articulate it, and they might not be able to name it and go, you were lying about this thing, but they get a sense off someone, something's off. It's like, can I swear?
Yeah.
It's like a bullshit detector. It's like something's off. And you might not, they might be talking about astrophysics, and you don't know, but you're just like, I just feel like you're not saying the truth here. You don't quite know. And I think acting gets you to trust that a bit more, and because you've spent so much time acting on your instincts. And I think we spend so much time as people. I get it that you through the education system and sort of stuff. It's like you do all this, and I'm too far the other way, so this is bad. But I also think there's another end of the spectrum of like, you read so much, you prepare so much, you kind of you remove the aspect of you that's present in the moment and just acting purely on instinct. Because you can read 50 books about sales, but then you're in a sales situation and someone said something that isn't in the book, and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Whereas actually, if you, and not the other end of the spectrum would be, don't read any of them and just act purely on instinct. I don't think that's helpful either, but it's like finding that marriage of the technique and the moment, which I think acting is. You do technique classes, but you're also taught to trust your gut in the moment. There's a technique called Meisner, which is literally just you repeat back. So let's say, for example, I'd say, you have brown hair, and then you'd say back to me, you have brown hair. You have brown hair, you have brown hair. You literally just go back and forth for like 5-10 minutes, and you watch as you realize, oh, I'm blocking instincts, or I'm not. I'm just letting it happen, or the conversation's going in a certain way, and I'm not controlling it. I've not pre-planned this. It's just naturally evolving. So that's the perfect mirror of like technique, but also trusting your gut. And yeah, I think acting definitely in content, for me anyway, has given me just like a sense of like, just trust it. Like, I might be wrong, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe I look back at my old videos and I'm just cringing. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, fine. I was just, and I think I see a lot of people who, and I've been in this position as well. Like, I don't know how to start this thing. Just start, and you will only learn by doing. Literally, only learn by doing. And I do really believe in that. And you can read as many books as you want, and you should read them. You shouldn't be me and just jump straight in all the time, because I make a lot of mistakes. But there is something about acting that it's just go for it. Just try it. Get up there, stand up, fail, be rubbish, go again, because you'll only learn by doing that.
For sure.
And yeah, I think that definitely with content, I was just, and even on the technical side of things, I was like, I could learn how to do it. And like, you go back and listen, and the EQ's all off, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I still don't really know what I'm doing, but I know a bit more.
And that's the thing, man, because you mentioned the reading as well, and like, yeah, you can, mentally masturbate your way to thinking you've done it.
Yeah.
But until you actually go and do it, like, it takes failure. And the thing with reading is like, you're learning other people's mistakes, so you don't have to commit them yourself, which is great until you realize there are certain mistakes that you're going to make that you need to make and you can't prepare for.
100%.
Life is just going to hand your way.
100%.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, that's bang on. And yeah, I think it is. I think there is something in. There's probably defense on both ends of that spectrum. There's defense if you're just jumping in without even thinking. There's defense against maybe the hard yards that you need to do, but also if you're just not jumping in and you're thinking, there's defense against the mistakes. And you're right, you do just need to make errors. I went on a show. Well, I went on the Overlap, the Sky Sports show, and like in the grand scheme of content, like it's like whatever. I got like 5 out of 12 on a quiz or something. But anyway, the clip went round and it got millions of views, and I was getting loads and loads of abuse. And I'm laughing about it now, but like at the time it was like, it's not fun because you're seeing all these people saying really like nasty things and like really personal, like over a quiz where you got 5 out of 11 or 12 or something. And I should have known the answers, whatever. But it taught, the quiz is irrelevant. It taught me about environments and where you're best. And I didn't feel comfortable in that environment for many, many reasons, not necessarily their fault. And I could go into it. But I wasn't comfortable. And also it's not particularly relevant of that specific case. But I think jumping off that, I've been a lot more selective about, okay, do I feel good in this environment? Do I feel like I can articulate myself properly? Do I feel like I'm going to be given space to speak? And I'm not just sat here watching someone, on a podcast like this, for example. I know you're not sat there waiting for me to say something to clip me up. I just know it, so I can speak freely. So, yeah, I think there's something really about environments, and that's been my path. But to come back to what you're saying, I would never have been able to learn that so viscerally had I not gone out, made that mistake, a couple of wrong answers on experience, and then go, right, okay, that's what I've learned from that. But yeah, so yeah, that was, yeah.
Amazing. And, to actually start digging into the content properly through the weeds, tell me a bit about how you actually got started. Because even from our conversation the other day, I got the impression that TDK wasn't how you actually started with YouTube. So yeah, like what was the journey there to get to the channel that's at almost 100K now?
Well, weirdly, I remember making YouTube videos even as a kid. Like I remember I was thinking about this the other day. Like I used to make I think I had a channel called like Alex Hart SpongeBob or something. I was made absolute rubbish. But so I've always kind of been interested. So I did. I just kind of was at a bit of a crossroads, not sure what I wanted to do with acting. The writing hadn't quite appeared at that point. And I remember just lying on my bed with my partner at the time and being like, I just don't know what I want to do. And she was like, well, what do you like doing? Which is a really good question. I was like, well, I like football. And she was like, okay, we'll do something in football then. I was like, okay. So I just got my mate, Brad, and we started a podcast. It was called The Different Knock Podcast, but this was 2 years before I posted on YouTube. Actually, over 2 years. And that's the kind of the reps that I think we spoke about maybe. The reps of just going over and over again and doing a podcast and realizing my mic wasn't on for the entire podcast, and those errors that don't matter at that point because there's nothing really riding on it other than just the fun that you're having between you. And it was great because you build up an articulation, you build up structure, you build up a rapport, you build up an audience to some degree, and that was the kind of the work in the dark, I guess, that I think everyone can relate to. If you've had any success in any area, people go, oh, it's great. It's like, well, yeah, it took me X many years to get there.
No such thing as overnight success.
Exactly. And then, yeah, posted a video probably 2022, something like that, in like the summer. And Arsenal had like on the brink of getting top 4. It was like quite a good time. Posted one video. I didn't have a tooth. You remember this?
Yep.
When Antonio said, I remember you not having a tooth, I was like, okay, you really did watch.
I'm telling you.
I'd lost this tooth. And yeah, so that happened. Posted one video, got 10 views or whatever, and then posted another video about sort of Arteta's, how Arteta's got Arsenal challenging for the top 4 again or something. And I put the thumbnail of the All or Nothing, just pure timing, the All or Nothing documentary that Amazon did was on at the time. So I had just released the thumbnail, like the trailer, and it had a thumbnail that day, and I put that thumbnail on the video. And I obviously now thinking about it, it's just such pure clickbait. But I thought it was just a good idea. I was like, well, that's related. And it blew up, which is amazing, and got lots of lovely comments, and not that many people bullied me about my tooth, which is nice. Maybe you did, I don't know. Let me go back on the video, find your hate comment. And yeah, and from there, sort of enough people stay, you know, maybe a couple thousand people subscribed. So I was like, okay, well, wow, okay, it's the most I've ever had an audience in terms of a football sense. And then again, a big slog to like get it going again, because you have the moment, and I remember looking at my phone and being like, oh my God, like what is going on? And it's nothing numbers in the grand scheme of things, but for me, I was like, oh my goodness me. And yeah, and then we can go through this more granularly, but sort of quickly. Just kept making videos. I had a brief pause when I did another acting job, and I was still kind of thinking about still being an actor. Then I properly weekly videos from about 2023 early-ish. Had a few pauses here and there, but yeah, that's been the path.
And when you made the decision to start mapping out the videos, I mean, based on what you're saying, it could have just been that you went straight into it. But when you started looking at the breakdown of what you'd say, did you have any kind of idea as to how well they could do, the initial ones?
No idea. Because I think at the time, like in that specific niche, I hadn't seen the only bit I'll take credit for, because I've stolen so many ideas off many people, and all the first videos are like things I've pinched off people's podcast. Like I heard someone say something, and I'm like, well, I'll rework that. I don't do that now, but the first couple of videos, first like 5-10 videos were basically that. I think the only bit I'll take credit for is I didn't think that there was a video essay niche in football. There sort of still isn't really, as far as it is in scripted video, like sort of structured video essays, or certainly not. There's not as much as I think there could be. I think basically people could take the model and do it pretty much if they could do it for another club. But yeah, I think I hadn't really seen that. So that I was like, okay, I think I can do video essays about Arsenal, and if I'd script them and edit them properly and, you know, build a structure, and it's more so that's the thing. And I see a bit more now, but I didn't know. I had no idea if they would take off. I was just kind of seeing really. I didn't have like a sense of it. And I remember having a conversation with I've got an agent now, and I remember like early on, I had like, I don't know, 30k or something, and I remember being like, there's no way a channel like this will ever get to 100k or 150k or whatever. And he was like, don't put a cap on it. You don't know. And he was right. And it's not that it's going to, I don't think it's going to ever hit, you know, millions and millions, because it's ultimately a niche channel about Arsenal. But I don't know. That's the point, is you don't know. You don't know where it's going to go. You don't know you don't know the audience. You don't know what people are interested in. You don't know how you're going to develop. You don't know how Arsenal are going to develop. You don't know how football's going to develop. You don't know what other content strands come off it. I don't know.
Why cap yourself?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not to say that there is a limit, of course, but equally, I think I early on was like, this isn't going anywhere. It's like, well, maybe it will.
No, exactly that. And even, you know, when you went into it, did you have any specific goals in mind, or was it literally just jump in the dark, let's see what happens?
Certainly not to end up on lovely podcast sets like this. I really had no idea, and I've sort of developed ambition in the space as I've gone on, because I didn't think it was even possible. I literally was just like, I was talking about football to 100 people a week on a podcast with a mate, and then it just sort of quite quickly became something quite different. Yeah, so no, I had no, and now, you know, I'm lucky enough to work with various companies, and I've got sort of ideas in the pipeline and things that I'm working on to bring out relatively soon, and I'm beginning to be like, okay, I can make, yeah, this is something I really want to. I've sort of gone, is it? No, it is. I really like doing it. I love talking about football. Sometimes what I need, I've realised, and I'm sure people can relate to this, I have those days where I'm like, I hate this. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I'll have like a day off, and then I'm like, oh no, it's fine. I just needed a day off. So yeah, I have a lot of now I have a lot of ambitions in the space of like what I want to do and content I want to bring out and where I want to take everything. But yeah, to start off, I was just making.
And at what point did you realize this was something you could go all into?
Good question. I don't think there was like a one point. I think probably when I got an agent, basically a guy called Joe who was a viewer and he worked for a talent company and he was like, I really like your stuff and I think there's like potential here. That was when I was on that meeting, maybe I was like, okay, yeah, this could go somewhere. But yeah, it's odd. I was talking to James Alcott, who is if people don't know, he's like probably the biggest independent football YouTuber. Is that accurate to say? Maybe not. One of the biggest anyway. And he's amazing, and he's kind of been a bit of a trailblazer in the space and kind of outside of the mainstream Sky Sports, Talk Sports, whatever, to actually create really consumable, high quality football content. But he was doing that years ago. So he's never, and I was talking to him about it, he's never had a reference. He's never had and I have a reference with James. So I'm like, okay, well, at least I can see James has managed to end up working in the mainstream and he's got his own studio and he does it like this and he puts out podcasts like that and he does this sort of content. So I have a bit of a reference with James and other people in the space. But he never had that. So I'm lucky to have that. But that's still only one reference, you know what I mean? Whereas if you're a professional footballer, you have a million references of careers that you want to follow. So yeah, I'm still kind of working it out. I don't quite know. But again, back to what we were talking about earlier, there is something in just being present with the journey and not, I believe in goals, but I'm also, I try not to be too rigid with them and be like, I'm not going to change if something comes up because that doesn't align with everything.
Are you clear with how you portray yourself and how you react to specific things, or is that also an ongoing development? Like, for example, leaning into rage bait more, leaning into sensationalism versus keeping it grounded. Yeah, different content formats, different styles. Like, is the identity that you're going for something that, again, was clear at the start, something you developed over time, something that you still consider, flexible now?
Look, I quite like the word authentic, but I think it's very hard to know, even for myself sometimes. I'm like, am I being authentic? I don't know. But I think, to come back to what we were saying earlier, I think people know when they're being lied to. And I know when I'm lying. And I'm just not that angry about stuff. So it just wouldn't be authentic. And I think there are people who do, I think I'll watch a video from someone and I'm like, I know this is put on. And that's what people respond. I don't think it's about the content style. I think it's about the authenticity. Because I think there are people, there's a guy called Turkish who works on FTV, and he had this rant outside the stadium, I think after we went out against Man United in the Cup last year. And it is a rant, and it is impassioned, and it is hyperbolic. But he means it. And people connect to it, and you can see people, and I didn't feel that way. But I watched it and went, wow, that's an incredibly, incredibly well-articulated, passionate, clearly authentic, ultimately, expression. Is it how I feel? No. But I feel that truth. And I do think there is the sort of the brand identity and stuff, and I could put words on it and, we're not reactionary and we try and keep it, sensible and all these sorts of things. But it's more just trying to be honest, I guess, than anything else. I don't think it's not like a brand strategy. It's just I'm just trying to be honest. And I think that's why people connect to it, because they can feel I am being honest. They might not agree, and in fact, fair enough, I'm probably saying many things people don't agree with, but at least I'm saying what I feel. You know what I mean? And I think people feel that truth. Whether they could articulate it, whether they could explain it, whether they're not going to write under the comments, Alex, I can tell you're articulating yourself truthfully today. I'm not going to say that, but we all feel that. And I think that's really, rather than like a brand strategy or it's just going with my gut and going with what feels right. And that you're never going to fail, because if what is right is not. And I also, so many thoughts. I also think being authentic will always end up being relatively popular to some degree.
Agree.
Like it's not because people don't, again, people can't connect and build up that long-term relationship with someone who they think is not lying intentionally, but not really being truthful.
Putting on an act.
They're putting on an act. And that act could also be really sensible, really calm. And, no, I'm not going to rage bait. And, I'm not going to rise to that stuff. That's not authentic either, because that's not really how you feel. And there are days when I am a bit more like, yeah, so I think it's just honesty, I think.
Yeah, authenticity is magnetic in the end of the day, right? And I think even, again, I think one of the reasons why from early on I was watching was because of the fact, as you mentioned, there are not that many video essay channels, especially about Arsenal.
Yeah.
Two things that I'm interested in. And, having done video essays myself for YouTube and planning to continue, and I even want to speak to you about that after this. But one of the things that I noticed for you is like the structure and how you actually approach videos in a very like logical, I guess like data driven level makes sense. Right. So even looking back at your early videos, I can understand why they did well, aside from the facts that, yes, like, you may have taken a thumbnail that just happened to work very well, or the titles are great. And there's all these factors, sure. But like when it comes down to it, the fundamentals of what you're doing, like you've kind of nailed down well. So even I wasn't even going to take in this direction, but I'm curious if you approach that very intentionally, if that's something that's kind of already ingrained in you from all the writing you've done over the years, or if that's something that you're like, okay, this is a thought that I have, this is the idea, how am I going to break that down?
Yeah, I wish I had like an easy kind of formula or something, but I sort of don't. I mean, it's kind of back to what feels right, and I think not forcing stuff. Like if I have a thought, like say for example, like a conceptual type video I did recently, it was about Martin Zubimendi, and I sort of compared him to like Forrest Gump, like the fact that he's kind of always there. But there are also videos when I don't really have a concept, I'm just like saying what I feel. But I also think there's like there is, I suppose the conscious part, other than just, it feels true, man. The conscious part is the packaging and how it's consumed. And there is thought in that. And what is that? I think there's something, I think that there's a formula, and I know what a football YouTube video should be. And again, because people have this, whether they're aware of it or not, have this sense of what feels true, they know if they're looking at a title and a thumbnail that's the right thing, that's the thing that you should do, it's not quite aligned with maybe the expression of the creator, like what they really want to say. And for example, last week, I think my video's title started with haha, full stop. Because I was just like, it's funny, like what I was talking about and how good we are at the minute. And then there's like, you can do A/B testing now on YouTube. So I put a few different thumbnails in, but it's funny, like there was more YouTube-y type thumbnails that the A/B testing didn't work on. It liked the more authentic, haha, we're brilliant, or whatever it was, I can't remember what it was. So yeah, there's to some degree it's just like what I'm feeling that week, and I'm obsessed with football and Arsenal. So there's always something I've got, and a thought, and again, it's always the process that I love. But I think there is the maybe the bit that people can take away is the packaging, and being so aware of what should work on YouTube and trying to subvert that, for me, has always worked. I don't know if it worked for anyone else, but I think it's we all know when we go onto YouTube what a YouTube thumbnail should look like. We all sort of know what a YouTube title should be. We kind of, even if you just passively watch, you kind of know what it is. And I think subverting that in some way is always
pattern
is, yeah, I think so. I think that's probably the only conscious bit where I'm like, I don't want it to look like it should be. I just want it to be.
Definitely fair. And, kind of switching lanes slightly, but, we're speaking about making videos about Arsenal on YouTube, and that is now a viable career, right? So how does someone in your position actually monetize what they're doing? How does that work across the board?
So yeah, this has been a process for me to understand and try and get a sense of it. So what I do, so first of all, you get ads, obviously, on YouTube. There is a bit of a game to be played there in some senses because you don't want to make bloated videos that no one's going to get to the end of, but also you can work out the length of videos and go like, okay, I think that this video would make sense to be a decent. Like the video essay is always a consistent. I have it's 4,000 words, and I know that length feels right from a narrative perspective. I've always got like a sense of like, okay, but it's also enough for ad breaks. The problem is if you do it any shorter, there's like 2 ad breaks in a 15-minute video, and you're like, it just feels harsh. So you get a 20-minute video, then you can put 2 ad breaks, and it feels like there's more space because you also audiences, like, I think they get it. They're like, I know you need to make money off this. There's no problem, but don't take the piss. Yeah. And I like that relationship of being like, I'm going to give you really good content. Just I need 2 ad breaks in this. Cool. So ads. What else? Patreon. So at the minute I do Patreon for like early release. So people who I do like a 1-day early release. And if I've ever got like a video that I like, say for example, I could put this on like if you sent it to me and you're happy for it, I'd put it on my Patreon just as a kind of a thank you. But those people are just amazing, generous, nice people who often, because I used to do more stuff on there and I thought everyone would leave, but actually people just want to support people that they think are good, which is really, really nice. So it's ads, and then there's obviously the main one is brand deals, and that's come through my agent Joe. So I worked with Huel, worked with HelloFresh, got a deal coming up with Surfshark, and those are kind of ad integrations. And again, not taking the piss out of your audience. They know it's an ad break, so make it fun, like make it entertain, like make it silly, like put some stuff in it, like keep it relevant, like and it's very easy to say that. And I sometimes get to it and I'm like, oh, I've got to film an ad today. I'm like, God. But it's always worth it when I've put it in there and I've scripted it and I've edited it properly. And I'm not saying I'm changing the world here, but you know, Chris MD's ad breaks. I'll watch them. They're great. Like, they're so entertaining. And like at some point I'll have a team of editors who can help me. But like I love that because it's like, I have to make money. You know I have to make money. I have to pay for all this, but let's have fun while we're doing it and let me like bring some entertainment value to it. So I think there's something in that. Then I have another podcast which has a bigger Patreon following, and we do like more kind of like live stuff, so like instant reactions, main like podcasts, like more free flowing conversation, like scripted stuff. We do like scouting players and stuff like that, like different types of content around football. What else? You could do buy me a coffee, where people, if they want to, they can just give you like a one-time thing, and people have been really, really lovely through there. Sure, there's other things, but yeah, it's kind of a number of. You get paid for like appearances on places. So if I'm on Sky or whatever, but yeah, I when I started out, I had no idea. Like literally, I've just like worked it out and copied people basically.
So I mean, I think that makes it pretty clear. The goal was never to go on to make this.
No. I knew you could make money, but I didn't know what level, what you could do, what you couldn't do, how to do it. I literally like started off copying a podcast that I knew, and then ads. I've been like, okay, well, that's all that's been brought to me. Like it's all. I've not ever gone, here's a strategy. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. And you know, kind of picking up on that, you mentioned appearance fees for going on different shows. You mentioned BBC, Sky Sports. I mean, Sky Sports in general is a whole production. I want to dig deeper into that specifically, but what's it like to work with Sky Sports?
They're amazing, and they've been, and I'm not just saying that, like they've been so great to me. Bobby, who produces Saturday Social, the guys on there. I've been on a show called The Lowdown, a guy called Doogie. Yeah, just really nice. And I think they just know what they're doing, and they respect that it's not, you know, it's that sort of football. What's that phrase? It's like, it's not life and death. It's much more important than that. Or whatever. It's like it's football. We're gonna have fun. Like it's a chat. We're making a combined 11 of Arsenal and City. Like it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think it's never that deep, but in the best way. Take it seriously, but like also not take yourselves too seriously. And I think it's been great. Like genuine. And I'm not just saying this. Has there been anyone? No, I've not gone into like any of these. Like I think sometimes I see this sort of, and we are in this age, and I get it, of kind of like, you know, the mainstream media and these horrible people in glass houses causing agendas, and I just don't feel that. And I'm not saying that because I didn't feel that before. You can go back and check of my opinions before. I didn't feel that before, and I don't feel it now. It's just people trying their hardest and doing their best. The media space is a different conversation, but like the people within it are, yeah, super lovely.
And you've met some of the most successful people in football media as a whole. What would you say that, or would you say that any of the top ones have any traits in common?
I think a willingness to not stick to the script, probably. Like my Lawrence McKenna, who I work with quite a bit, is like one of my mates now, which is great, and he's great. But I think he's just willing to, again, I'm sorry to come back to it, sound like a teenage girl, but it's authenticity. It really is, and it's a willingness not to be formulaic. And I think that's what people, ultimately what audiences are connecting to, is people who will show you a bit more of them than a sort of polished version of them. And I think the people, there's certain people in the football media space who I really respect, but I don't think they have the audience that they should have, because I'm not sure how. I feel like they're presenting a version of themselves, which is fine, but it's like, how do you bring more of yourself? And ultimately, this is a version of me. This is a version. I'm sure you're not podcast host Antonio. Like, this is we understand this is a version of us that works for the social function, but like being able to bring more of yourself to a conversation. Also saying things like, I don't know, in a very masculine space, very masculine and male dominated as a different thing space, being able to be like the person who actually brings a bit of softness and be like, I don't know, I'm not sure about that, I think is sometimes feels like a weakness, but I think is a massive strength. Willingness to be like, actually, yeah, I am unsure of that. And accountability and accepting you might be wrong and being interested and all those things. But yeah, I sorry to keep coming back to it, but it's authenticity. It's feeling as though someone, you can't connect with a mask. You can't. You can only connect with the person and what you feel from them. And I think those who can bring that will have success.
One thing I wanted to speak to you about in general is how football evolved from being a sport solely that people went to go watch in the weekend to being part of like the sports media empire, right? Okay. And this huge phenomenon that plays a massive role in people's lives, a lot more than it would be, 30 years ago, going to watch your local team once a week. So, as someone who's in and around it, how do you view the evolution of football media as a space and where that's heading?
Well, I think it's becoming, kind of off the back of what we were saying, a bit more, it's more personal, and people and kind of the playing field is being leveled. I think there will always be a desire for more produced. 10 years ago, the guys on Super Sunday were all in suits, and now they're in like more casual gear, sort of the stuff we're wearing. And that tells you something. And people, again, it's back to like people kind of know. Everyone's got a camera. Everyone sort of thinks, I could probably set up a podcast. There's a level playing field now, and so I think people are expecting more, which is good, and they should, by the way. And I think also within football, I'm often asked like, why don't you speak about other clubs? And I can. And I will. And if you ask me my opinion on Chelsea or Man United, I absolutely will give you an opinion. But I will also accept that I haven't watched every single game. I've probably seen 6 Chelsea games so far this season. I've probably seen 4 or 5 Man United games, something like that. That's not enough, I'm sorry, now, in this era of football, to be, this is the truth. I can have a conversation and like I would chat to someone and I'd feel informed enough to be like, let's say you're a Chelsea fan, I'd be like, well, here's my opinions on like João Pedro and here's how I think he should work. But you've seen more games than me. You have an opinion, like let's have a chat. I think people know that the kind of era of I've seen one Arsenal game, and I'm going to give you my opinion on Arsenal so far this season based on just pure waffle and narrative. It just doesn't work anymore. People are more clued up. People are more switched on. There's amazing... When you bring phones and podcast equipment to the masses, you're going to get people popping up who are just incredibly informed about their own club and their specific thing. And you can't be... Like, I think I call it like the death of the generalist. It's incredibly hard to be a good generalist without taking the position of like, I'm amplifying voices, which I think people like James Orcott do really well. And going like, I've got, like for example, we had a conversation with Lawrence the other day, and like, Lawrence is a diehard Liverpool fan. James will have watched loads of Liverpool this season, but he's willing to bring Lawrence on and say, I've got enough about Liverpool here. You tell me though. Let's have a conversation. And I think that's for me where football media is kind of headed, because you have, and I feel sorry sometimes for people, you know, the guys on Sky or whatever it might be, when they get clowned for certain opinions, because it's like, well, yeah, if you asked me about Man United this season live on Sky, I just haven't watched that many games, and I think it's a slight what's it, Hall of Mirrors? What's that thing called? Mirrors thing. It's like a little bit of a front when you see people talking really confidently about loads and loads of teams, and I think people can smell it. So you want people who are experts on their, not necessarily their club, but maybe, you know, is it a league, or is it a cluster of teams, or is it one player, or whatever. So I think we're heading into more the specialist world rather than the generalist who talks all about football.
I think the Athletic does that very well.
Exactly.
Personally. Do you think you have any type of role or responsibility as a content creator in the space you're in? I think it's very valid to say no, by the way.
Well, I feel it like yeah, I feel that sometimes, and when like, you know, some stuff that's happened at Arsenal over the last couple of years, like with Thomas Partey and things like, I've thought like, you know, how do I respond to this? Do I have a role? And it's fascinating to see it, because I bet I put like something out. Half the comments were, you know, thank you for speaking up. Half the comments were, we don't care what your opinion is, and then loads of people wouldn't have even looked at it. I don't think there's a right answer. I don't know. I think, again, you can only go off like what you think is right. I think a little bit, maybe. But also, I'm a guy for a lot of people and who gives them a 20-minute chat about Arsenal every week. Do you know what I mean? Like, just don't get too big for your boots. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's fine. I think you can get too... God, I really mean something. It's like, not that you're nothing without the club, but the club comes first and the football comes first, and then you're an add-on, which is great, but don't think you're the main part. And I think sometimes that you can get tempted to look at numbers and go, oh wow, you know, I'm really here, but you're only here because you're talking about something everyone loves, right? And doing a good job and packaging well and tightening well, and you're turning up, whatever. But yeah, I think, like, yes and no. There's probably cases where I would say something, where I would give my opinion at least and give a space for a conversation. But equally, I think a lot of people, it's easy to look at a very small minority of people saying something and think that represents everyone. And like, public service announcement, what the loudest voice on Twitter says is not necessarily what everyone thinks. Like, I really like stress this, and I think I have this conversation with guys I podcast with all the time. They're like, oh, well, Arsenal fans are saying this. One Arsenal fan who was boosted by the algorithm and got loads of attention because of what they said was so extreme said that. That doesn't mean everyone thinks that. It's such a weird...
It's the echo chamber society.
Yeah.
But even based on that, comment sections, you know, I've had some experience with them being brutal at a fraction of the, you know, exposure that you have. Has your relationship with, like, how you allow it to affect you changed over time, and how do you view it now?
Massively. Yeah, I probably about a year and a half ago was peak, like, I'd read every comment, I'd like try and reply. Weirdly, I think YouTube specifically comment section have like their own life. Like, I think they have like almost, people will go and see the top comments. There was a video I did with this guy. He was a Man City fan for Sport Bible. And like, he was just like in the moment, I was like, this guy's having fun. He probably was a little bit too. He probably was chatting a bit too much, probably. But we off camera, lovely guy, a guy called FG. We had a really nice conversation, and I walked away feeling like that was a good chat. Like I had fun. Yeah, probably maybe he didn't quite catch my drift every time, but whatever, that happens in conversations. It's football, and the comments murdered him. But I sort of thought, if the first couple of comments had been, "Oh, that Arsenal fan should have bit back," I wonder whether you go down to the comments, you read the first couple of top comments, and a few of them are all the Arsenal fans, and then the tide turns. I often wonder, people see top comments and they go, "Oh, that's the narrative on this." I don't know. I think there's a bit of a sort of own world. But to answer the thing, yeah, I put it like this: like, I rarely see someone say something that is almost never have seen someone say something personal that feels true with their own face and their own name on their profile. And the comments that do get me is when I can see someone who has invested in me and is like, "Hey Alex, I'm a long time viewer. Here's a thought," and I'll really and I'll take that into account. I won't always agree, but I think it's very easy. It's very easy to sit there and write. Well, like I've never. Have you ever disliked a YouTube video?
No.
I find it such an odd concept. Just don't watch it.
Yeah.
But I understand that I'm in a very lucky position. I feel very grateful for so many great things in my life. Like, I'm in a good place generally. I also have my bad days and I've got my challenges, of course, but generally I'm all right. And I just think, what world would I have to be in? I saw a comment from a Liverpool fan, again, with a dog as his profile picture. So yesterday, saying something like, "Congratulations, this is the worst effing content I've ever seen." And I think I've got to this point now where I'm like trying to be like, how can I, like, I'm imagining myself writing that and the space I'd have to be in, not to be patronizing, but like, seriously, like, what space would I have to be in to write faceless abuse to someone? And I try and come at it from that point. And that's a very rational thought that I've always had, and then sort of secretly been like, "Oh, I'm going to go back at you." But I think I am settling into that now. I'm just like I'm nearly 30. I can't be going back at people on YouTube about.
But that's the
nothing.
same as we were saying about reading before. I think certain things, like, that to be true when you're starting, but when it first hits you, it kind of hits that nerve,
Exactly.
and then after a while, you're numb to it, right?
Exactly.
And, you've been in some rooms with some big people, very famous people, very impressive people. Have you ever had imposter syndrome?
100%. Yeah, and also because, like, obviously I'm not like a football expert. I'm just giving my opinions, and hopefully informed opinions, and I'm always trying to understand more and read more and learn more, so I feel like I have something to offer. But yeah, I'm a kid from Bournemouth who went to drama school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't go through an academy or anything like that. So I definitely have that. What are you going to do?
Has it gotten better over time? Have you done anything to work on it? Is that something that still impacts you today and you've just learned to cope with it? Or what's your relationship with it now?
I think maybe just trying not to take it too seriously is like not taking myself, like taking the thing seriously, but not taking myself seriously. Like, whether I say the right opinion about Arsenal in a certain environment is not going to change the world. Like, it's really fine. Like, it's the center of my universe, but it's not the center of anyone else's universe. And it's back to that thing of the on the other, of being like, okay, what does this person need out of this interaction? How can I serve rather than think, oh God? And I recognize it now, and I'm not very good at it, and I need to get better at this. But like, when I'm nervous, or when I'm like not on my game, or like I can feel I'm like, it's because I'm thinking about myself. I'm purely thinking, oh, how am I being perceived? How am I being viewed? And it is that trying to flip it back to, no, you're here, you're trying to serve this person. So yeah, the imposter syndrome and all those things come in, I think, when I'm just thinking about myself. But it's very hard. We all do, don't we?
For sure.
All the time.
Yeah, and I think, it's even the other day, for example, when I went to, and I guess we can go into the story now.
Yeah,
there's a couple other questions, but I went to go see your musical. Essentially, Tuesday night, I see you make a community post. Yo, I put together this musical. If anyone wants to come, £15, here's the address. And I saw it was like a 30-minute walk from my house. So I was like, yo, I've been meaning to reach out to this guy, at some point in the next 6 to 12 months. Why don't I just show up and go there? And, I brought already my reflections in terms of the acting side and all of those, but like I didn't realize I'd get there and it'd be all your friends and family,
Yeah.
like you having to interact with a bunch of people. So I was just like, yo, how is this going to be received? Obviously, like in my mind, I'm much further ahead than reality shows in terms of where the podcast is at and where the audience is at and all these things. So all those things are kind of playing on you. But going back to what you were saying about intuition, man, like when I saw that post, it just felt like, this is an opportunity that has presented itself. You got to go take it. And, we can speak about whether that's, you can link it to God, to the universe, to, all these concepts. But in the end of the day, it's just, you have that gut feeling. It draws you to it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Then it's just up to you to act on it.
There's a guy called, Alex O'Connor? Oh, you should. You'd love him. He has this theory about free will, and I sort of love it. Would you agree that everything you do is motivated by a want or a lack of want? So I want to be here, I don't want to be here. I want to get the glass, I don't want to get the glass, whatever. There's no option outside of I want to do this or I don't want to do this. All your actions are motivated by a want or a lack of want.
Towards pleasure and away from pain, right?
Yeah. So you want pleasure, you're away from pain, or you articulate it in any way you want. But yeah, the thing, he explains it much better than I'm going to be able to. But like you can't do something without it a kind of a want. Or even if you're doing something unconsciously, you didn't choose. You didn't have that decision. Then, if we accept that everything is made with a want or a lack of want, or we're just out of control of the things, like say we're scratching or something, we don't choose that. The question then is, where does your want come from? Have you chosen to want it? Do you want to want this thing? Have you made a decision? Okay, I'm going to want to pick up my glass. No, you just want to. So then if you're not in control of that, you're not in control of the unconscious things, you're not in control of the wants really, you're acting on the wants, which gives you the illusion of control, but you don't choose the things that you want. Who's in charge? And he explains it brilliant. I've probably butchered that, but it's basically the idea is that like you have the illusion of free will, but you don't. And then you get into like, okay, God, whatever. And I'm such a big believer in just like intuition, gut feeling. You just got a sense this is right, or that person, they seem interesting. Like, I just think that is, yeah. I don't know if this is the right podcast, but I had a psychedelic experience, and that I knew that logically and rationally, but that experience was like, yeah.
The confirmation.
It's like, this is all, I don't know whether it's God or whatever, but this is happening for a reason. This is all aligned. You're not in charge, but you are active within it. And yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, again, layers to it. There's the fact that you're not your body, right?
Yeah.
You are the spirit that lives within it. And where does that come from? Why are those spirits drawn to human bodies? Again, we can go through all of that, but what it ties back to, at least that specific example that I just mentioned, is the human ability to experience emotion, which is what kind of distincts us from other animals in general. And even, to start tying up, but to tie back to your journey as a whole, I think, at least personally, from a outside perspective, like fun and creativity are things that have kind of always been involved in your career throughout. Would you say that's how you like to approach life as a whole? Is that something that kind of came to you naturally? Is that something you always seeked? Like, why do you think that is so present throughout?
Well, I think there's the word. I think it is. There's fun and play in every moment. Like you don't, and it's not about it's not about not taking things seriously or like not showing up or not like being serious about what you're doing. But there's a way of doing everything that you do. Ironically, I think you do get to at least have the illusion of choosing. The sort of sense of like, yeah, I can go through my day and this meeting and this thing, and you feel that sense of, it's like, what if I try and just like have fun with it? And I think that is possible. And I think maybe because I had quite a serious household, maybe I should have tried to find the fun a little bit. And I just think we're once, no one really knows what they're doing. The people who make a bigger show of trying to show you that they know what they're doing are the people who know the least what they're doing. And yeah, just trying to have fun with it. And it's sort of quite, I don't know, sixth form philosophy, but it is just like, have fun. Just like what's the point? We will never live this moment ever again. So why spend it like, you're going to be frustrated, but where you can, just trying to bring joy and have fun. And I don't know, I think maybe also because of the upbringing I had, like with my dad, like life has always seemed quite short and sort of quite fleeting, and kind of like anything could happen tomorrow. And I think I've always had that sense. So yeah, I've always been very like, and it's seeped into, as we were alluding to earlier, I'm always just like jumping in because I'm like, well, no time to lose kind of thing. So yeah, is it the perfect way of approaching life? I don't know, but I do try and have fun.
Oh, for sure. And even while you're speaking there, a thought I had. So one of the best books I've read is called Reality Transurfing. I think you would enjoy
Reality,
it too.
say one?
Transurfing.
Transurfing.
I'll send it to you after.
Please do.
But my biggest takeaway from that was, if you can approach life with heightened intents and lowering the importance you attribute to things, things will just go so much better.
I love that. Would you say it again? Heightened intents and lowering the importance you give to things.
Because then you're going all in, you're giving your all, and you're not attached to an outcome. And when I look at your story and how you went into content to see what would happen without this kind of end goal, even your journey in theater, it's like you're telling me about how you always just start things. It's like, go, you're not really planning, you're not really thinking about things. Like the way that you've done that, and obviously I don't know the importance you're giving to it, because it's one thing what you're saying, it's another thing what you're feeling in the moment. But it seems like that is kind of an attitude that you've approached life with, and it's paid fruits.
It's at least the goal. Do I always feel that? Probably no. And there are days where I get very caught in it. But I think that's at least the goal. And yeah, I think like we don't have time to go into the ancient Greeks, but Alain de Botton, the guy I talk about, he talks about it all the time. They had very much had this thing of like, all their stories are about, Icarus or whatever. It's about remembering you're not a god. That's all the ancient, and that's all their stories, all their tragedies, all this. They're remembering you're not a god, remembering basically you're not in charge. And it's people who flew too close to the sun or didn't remember that they weren't in charge, kind of thing. And I think there is something really beautiful in that. And whether it's for you, it's religion or spirituality, or whatever. For me, I've come at it from a different perspective, but like it's like just surrendering control a little bit. And yeah, as you say, getting kind of, I don't know, I can't control the outcome, so I'm just going to enjoy it, and then probably naturally things will just happen. But that's a very hard thing to say to someone who it's like, well, I don't know how to let go. Neither do I, dude. Give it a go.
Just do.
See what happens.
Yeah, let go and let God.
Yeah.
Even on that, what's the toughest career-related challenge you've had to deal with and overcome?
Toughest career challenge. I don't know, really. I think, like, probably the kind of the process of not being sure what I wanted to do for a while, but even that felt active to some degree. Like I wasn't like in my room going, oh, I was just like, well, I'm just going to try this. Which is maybe, I don't know. I'm sort of realizing as I'm speaking, maybe it's like I refuse to not be active, and that's a kind of an issue as well. I don't know, but I don't really know. Like I've had issues on jobs, and I've kind of I had like a panic attack on the radio and things like that. So I've had like there's like things that have happened that have like been challenges, but there's never been like a period, I don't think, where I've been like, because I just think I've always, I think, and I come back to it, I think because of my dad, it's never felt that serious, because that was always the most serious thing, and it's kind of given me like a sense of, and because I've had like therapy for 4 years and stuff like that, like that's the person, they're not unlinked to me. Everything is linked. So if I'm having a personal crisis, it will seep into work, and it will, because they are the same thing. So there's no like career crisis. I've had like real dark night of the soul moments, and like, you know, really dark periods in my life when I suppose my career was in crisis, but it was because I was in crisis. So I think it's more that, I would suppose.
Reflecting on life, for sure, man. I mean, only because we have to start wrapping up.
We do.
But a final Arsenal-related question. So I know you've put in hours to watching Mikel Arteta over the years.
I have.
And I'm assuming you're someone like me who watched his first press conference in 2019 and we're like, oh, damn, like he's about to do something here. So I'm curious if there's anything that you've learned from Mikel that you've been able to apply to your own life or the way you view the world in general.
Yeah. Who was that comedian you said earlier?
Tim Dillon?
Yeah. There is something in his presence that makes you just go, okay. Like, at least he seems to know what he's doing, and it just allows people to relax. And I think that's a big thing, as you said about the press conference. He walked in, you're like, okay, I kind of trust you. I don't really know why, but I sort of trust you. And some people just have that presence, and it's amazing. And then you hear, oh, okay, he meditates. But also the prep that he does, I think he has to, in his world, he has to do a lot more prep than I would ever have to do in anything I do. But I think he's so prepared that he can just be fully present. I think for me, it's the clarity of communication and getting really, really clear on the ideas you're trying to put across. And, you know, whether you watch him in the All or Nothing documentary, or you see interviews with him or whatever, he has a real clarity of thought on what he's trying to say to you. I wonder sometimes whether it's a little bit too pre-planned, and sometimes I watch his teams and I'm like, is this kind of seeping it? Everything is so structured and thought through, and that's sometimes great. Does it leave a moment for serendipity and something to happen just naturally? But even that, I think he's kind of across. He did an interview with Steve Kerr, the basketball guy, and he's very he's got not got an answer for everything in the bad sense, but he's got he's got a philosophy on everything. Steve Kerr was very much like, here's this experience which taught me this lesson. And I think obviously he's still at the beginning of his coaching journey. I would love to see him in 20 or so years' time, having had all those brilliant and clearly working theories about coaching and stuff tested, and what he now thinks on the other side. But I think he has such a clarity of what he wants to do and a clarity of outcome. And when he achieves what he wants to achieve, that will also change him, and I'm sure as it does with everyone. I think maybe the only thing is I'd love to see him, a bit more of him. I think sometimes it is a bit of a front, but I get it. I understand why. And ultimately, until he wins something, it's going to be very hard to do that. But yeah, the clarity of communication is amazing. It's amazing. And as a player, you must just go, oh my God, you like, teach me. It's great.
Literally. Yeah. And I think, you know, he's, I guess, at the forefront of this generation that, you know, it was kind of when he was a player that the internet was really picking up, and he had access to everything. So even if you take Pep, for example, like him doing his coaching badges, there wasn't as much information as there is nowadays. So I think he's kind of one of the first in this new generation that is really picking up. And I think over the next 10 to 15 years, even players like, you know, look at Saka, for example, like the guy, I know guys who grew up with him, like he's been a genius from when he was young. Imagine that genius with that level of discipline, with everything he has access to, be it resources, money, access, resource. Yeah, like imagine what he's going to do with his life. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think we're in for a new era, but another conversation for another day.
Yes, on our Arsenal podcast.
Just two questions that I always ask my guests before finishing. But if you could speak to a past version of yourself that was going through a tough time, whatever that was, what message would you give them?
It's happening for a reason.
Beautiful. Yeah, agreed. And any final message, anecdote, story you'd want to leave the viewer with?
Final message, anecdote, or story. Well, we were saying before the pod, I think like I would not be having this conversation had you not in person come and had a chat to me. And I think there is something in this very hyper digital world. You can like 10x your development in any area, I think, showing up. Being brave and just going like, I'm going to go to that thing, I'm going to walk up to that person, and I'm going to say something to them. And we would never have met had that not happened. And it's not, not, oh my God, you met me, wow. But it's in any world, I think there is something really beautiful, and that's the advantage you have now. I think there was like a time when you could access people on when no one was on Twitter, and no one really knew what anything was, and people were having these mad interactions with celebrities. It's kind of flipped the other way, I think, where actually if you are in person, you're more likely to get people. And I think I think anyone starting out, whatever they're doing now in their early 20s, mid 20s, go in person, go and chat to people, because that you also get an energy off people. And
1,000%. Yeah, that's literally what I had written down to reflect on as well, because it's a pattern interrupt in the end of the day. Your DMs, your emails especially, I'm sure, are flooded with people sending you all kinds of stuff, but rarely is someone going to show up and see you in person. And sometimes it's what I was saying before, the opportunity popped up 2 days before I didn't know you were going to be there. But when life shows you the signs, as you said, it happens for a reason. You just got to act on it.
Definitely.
But with that being said, if you want to watch another of these conversations with someone who also makes their living from YouTube and has been able to really grow on the platform, you can check out my conversation with Lyndon right here.